Browns open day one of minicamp here in Berea on Tuesday, and the big story is someone who's not here, Mary Kay, and that is wide receiver Amari Cooper. Of course, he was not here throughout OTAs, but now it's mandatory in minicamp, and now he faces fines for not being here. So him not being here sends a clear message that Amari Cooper would like to get paid a little more money, it seems like.
Absolutely. That is what this is about. It is a contract stand. He wants that extension, and as we have seen, the receiver market has absolutely exploded this offseason. Justin Jefferson of the Vikings got $35 million a year. Right here in his own backyard, Jerry Jeudy got a contract extension for $17.5 million a year. Amari is going into the final year of his deal at $23.77 million. None of that is guaranteed, and he's basically saying, I need to get paid. Last year of my contract, and I want some of all the money that's going around at the receiver position right now. I, for one, was a little bit surprised about this. We saw him at the softball game the other day. I thought, hey, he's in town. Maybe he's going to show up. So I was a little bit surprised by this.
Yeah, I was too, to not see Amari out here, for that very reason, that we did see him on Saturday. He was at the softball game, so that would seem to make you think, Ashley, okay, he's here, all hands on deck, let's go. But, he sees, like Mary Kay mentioned, he saw his own teammate get extended. He's seen these big money receivers, and he turns 30 years old, so he's staring down this idea of not much more opportunities to make this kind of money. So I guess if that's his thinking, it's not all that surprising that he would maybe make a play like this.
No, I mean, I think it does have the potential for a pretty interesting standoff because, like you said, Dan, he is going to be 30 years old or is 30 years old. So he's getting up there in terms of the number of years he has played for a wide receiver. And I say that as a 31-year-old, so I don't mean anything by calling Amari old, quote unquote. But it is interesting also because we know that for the last handful of years, Amari Cooper has been their most consistent threat in the passing game. So definitely fascinating. And like you two, I was also surprised to see this transpire today, even though it was definitely a possibility.
Yeah, and Mary Kay, I think that's what makes this really interesting, is Amari Cooper is very clearly this team's number one receiver. There's a drop-off between Amari Cooper and number 2, number 3, and it's pretty sizable because he is that talented, and Deshaun Watson even made a pretty declarative statement about how good he thinks Amari is.
Yeah, he stood up there and he said he is the best in the game. I put that headline out there on my story. I thought that was really saying something, that when his number one receiver is in the middle of a contract stand, Deshaun Watson goes to bat for him, calling him the best in the game. So we'll have to see where that goes, but I think Deshaun's saying, pay the man. Please, hurry up, get him in here.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jerry Jeudy wasn't out here either, so has a little bit of an injury. So, they didn't have their full complement of receivers today.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up a little bit more on the Deshaun side of this, Ashley, because like we all remember Baker Mayfield, how he handled certain contract holdouts. Deshaun Watson seems to understand, hey, my best playmaker, I've got to have this guy's back.
Yeah, I think he handled that exactly how most veteran quarterbacks in the NFL would handle something similar. And 100%, I keep thinking about that lengthy story I wrote about Amari, where I talked to a bunch of the younger receivers and pass catchers in this locker room last year before the wild card round. And I think the thing about Amari Cooper to remember is he's a great route runner. He's one of the best in the league. But for the Browns, this team, his greatness goes beyond that. He's really found his leadership voice. And that's the thing about Amari, is he's one of these guys who is so technical. He loves talking football. He loves being at these things, even if they're voluntary. So again, I think it says a lot that he's not here.
Okay, I mentioned Deshaun Watson talked to Mary Kay. What else stood out to you from what Deshaun had to say?
One of the things that he said that I thought was really interesting was the fact that you guys out there can rate me anywhere you want. But if people are still talking about me, I must be pretty damn good. And I thought that was really interesting. He's not backing down to anyone. We see the rankings out there, and people have written off Deshaun Watson. We all know that he hasn't played a full season since 2020. It's what have you done for me lately in this league? And I think he's really determined to prove that he is still one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL.
And it's interesting, too, because it's sort of an acknowledgement, even if he maybe doesn't want to say he's paying attention to it, that somebody out there, whether it's Deshaun or someone around him, is taking notes.
Yeah, exactly. I think, again, when you are playing at this level, I talk about guys like this all the time, you have to have, I think, that really firm sense of belief. Even if no one else thinks you're one of the best in the league or have that ability, if you're being counted out, you have to still think the way Deshaun Watson at least says he's thinking about this and thinking about his skill set. So definitely an interesting look into this, inside his mindset, I think.
So we did watch a practice today, staying on Deshaun Watson, Mary Kay. He did throw today. He will not throw on Wednesday. He will throw again on Thursday. So that normal Deshaun Watson schedule. What did you see out on the practice field today?
Well, the good thing is he took a little step forward and he threw in 7-on-7s. It's not that big of a deal because they still don't have pads on. There's still not contact. But he was able to actually throw routes to a receiver that was being covered by a defensive back. And that's a little something. So that's good. As you mentioned, he won't throw tomorrow. He will throw in the final day of the mini camp on Thursday. And he did not throw in 11-on-11. So it's a little step forward, but just an incremental step. So that's one thing. And the other thing really quick is that he said, yes, I came through that collision fine at the softball game.
Yeah, the collision with Zaire Mitchell-Payton. You read Mary Kay's story about that at cleveland.com/Browns. Thankfully, Deshaun was out there throwing today after we saw that. Ashley, I noticed you were kind of watching the linebackers today and noticed Nathaniel Watson maybe working up the depth chart a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, you want to take all of this with a grain of salt, but in the early portion of practice, I saw him getting quite a few reps next to JOK. They had the linebackers and safeties working together, so it was him, JOK, Juan Thornhill, and Grant Delpit for some of those reps when they were doing position drills. So definitely, again, another guy we've talked about a lot. Saw Michael Hall Jr. getting some reps, plenty of good reps with the defensive tackles and the D-line as a whole when they merged together. So some interesting stuff to glean.
Yeah, and again, one of those way too early depth chart things. I did think it was interesting that Mo Hurst was with those first teamers on defensive tackle. So just an interesting thing to watch here early on. We'll cover everything that happened here in Berea and, of course, throughout the week at cleveland.com/Browns.